So today we are going to talk about the global strategy, and global strategy is not just one thing, but we are looking at the global environment. And when we look at the global environment, we want to see what strategies, because last time, we talked about entry strategies. And when we talked about the entry, then now we are already there. But what do we need to do when we get into the international environment? How do we manage the activities? What do we want to do when we are operating in the international business? What are issues that we have to deal with? And that's why it is important to think of what plan we have to take on, or what are mechanisms that we have to use, or to see what others are doing and see how best we can work with them to be able to engage and achieve our goals. So as companies expand, many of them might consider moving to global markets. In order to operate globally, a company should consider creating a global strategy or global strategies. We shall discuss the definition of global strategy and why it is important, and the key types of global strategies in this session. So based on what you know and what you have maybe looked at, what is a global strategy? Or what does that mean to you? Class. What does global strategy means? We know global, or we don't know global? What we know, like in Uganda, I have global bus. I don't know why they call it global. They call them global bus. I don't know why they call them global, but now we are talking in business perspective. So what does that mean to you in relation to strategy? Can I hear what your thoughts are, please? I want to be quiet. It is very cold here. I may freeze. I need to see your hands. If your hand is not visible, just stop. Benson. Bernard.
Sister.
Yes, Mary. Is that Mary?
Not Mary. No, Stella.
Okay, Stella.
My thinking is that global strategy is a kind of plan a company adopts in order to compete with different countries or regions, maybe to achieve its global goals, or it is competitive status among those countries. It is something like that, sister.
Yeah, something like that. I like it because you did not leave it hanging. You identify that when you're talking about global, you're talking about countries, more than one. And when you're talking about more than one, you looked at what do you want to do in those countries? And what you want to do, you're not just doing it, you have set your goals. And your goal is to see that you achieve. And how can you achieve? That's when you brought in the concept of competitiveness, which is very, very key when you are looking at the global environment, because you are dealing with different sectors in different businesses. Mary, please.
Yes, thank you, sister. Global strategy, yes, just like Stella already said, it's a plan, or I would say a roadmap, where you have to clearly outline the activities and the things that you're going to do for this business that are going to make it stand out across, basically across the world. Yeah.
I agree with you. And I like it when you say it's a plan, a roadmap, because it's like you have a guide that is taking you to move step by step to see that you are able to achieve or to get what you want to do or to put it into practice. And that's when you are implementing. What would you do? That's when what would you do is like you're talking about objectives and how you do it. Those are the strategies that you are talking about, the different plans, the different activities, the different mechanism to ensure that when you are dealing in business environment, you are able to accomplish what? Accomplish your goal strategically, which is very, very important. The plan. So when we're talking about a global strategy, it is a strategy that a company develops to expand into a global market. And the purpose of developing a global strategy is to increase sales. That could be one of the reasons across the world. When we say across, you know what it means, bigger than where you are. So in that term, when you are talking about the global strategy or strategies, you are talking about different things that you can do. By planning, you can plan to standardize your activities, your products. You can plan to international, that is internalize your activities, your products or your services. You can plan to operate on a multinational strategy approach. So in other words, those are the three key strategies. When you're talking about the global, when you are talking more than one, how you do things and how you do it with other countries or in other countries. We are going to go further deeper, but it is important to note those three key strategies within the big umbrella of the global environment: the standardization, the international, and the multinational. So the importance of developing the global strategy, we can say that why is it important? It is important because it can help you ensure that your business succeeds in multiple locations. In other words, you are looking at bringing your business to different regions, to different locations. And to ensure that you succeed, you need to come up with different plans. And those plans can be based on these key areas. Either you are going to standardize, or you are going to use the international approach, or you are going to use the multinational approach. And you are trying to look at it to see how best you can position your business across. You'll be able to understand by drawing a global strategy how to create plans that can help make the business success across, but still your company may be able to know how to make things differently to make sure that the sales are high, you are able to enter new markets, and you are able even to make sure that your brand increases its awareness and all productivity goes high. So in other words, I'm talking to the point why global strategy is important. Why do we have to use different approaches to do business across? Why do we have to think of standardization? Why do we have to think about multinational? Why do we have to think about international? Why can't we just say international business? What is the difference between international and multinational in relation to global? Those are things that you have to ask yourself. This is telling us generating new sales, accessing new resources, fostering global brand awareness, lowering labor costs, creating economies of scale, diversifying risks, increasing operation flexibility are key when we have a global strategy. How does that happen? when you are thinking of lowering labor costs? How does that happen? When you look at the international, when you look at the multinational, or when you look at the global strategy at large, how do you lower the costs as an international organization? Yes, this is who? Those names, I better get the thing here. Jonathan.
Yes, sister. Good morning, sister.
Morning.
In regards to lowering costs, for example, labor, I think companies opt for countries that have higher populations and cheaper labor. For example, when we talked about the migration of companies from Silicon Valley to China, China having a population of about 1.6 billion, provides you with cheaper labor. Then also, when you look at the availability of resources or inputs, companies move to countries that have or are endowed with natural resources in order to lower costs of getting the inputs and transporting them. So it is usually cheaper to produce from such countries, and then you export to markets that will give you high incomes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good contributions. There was another hand up there. Who was that? Luambo. That was Jonathan. There was another hand. Others, what do you think when it comes to, we have heard from lowering costs? Yes, Mary.
I think another way of lowering costs could be outsourcing, because if you're in an international market, in a global market, or in other countries where it might be high to set up your own, to be able to provide all the services yourself, and it might be cheaper to outsource from other companies which are offering maybe part of the services which you intend to offer, or part of the things that can make your production easier. So yeah, outsourcing is also another way of lowering costs.
Okay. So, and when you're talking about outsourcing, it means you're inviting other maybe expatriates, or you are trying to utilize the resources from the other end to be able to achieve your goals. Okay. How about creating economies of scale? How does that happen? Class. We have 27 people. Where are the others? Are you sharing your gadgets which you're using? Chris, if you are sharing, make sure you on your chat, you sign on, okay? For attendance purpose. Can you talk on creating economies of scale? How does that happen? When you are talking about strategies that are employed into the global approach perspective based on international or multinational, or what is the other one? Class. Agnes. Agnes, are you there? Can you tell us how does the economies of scale happen when you are talking about using the global strategies that we have highlighted? How does it happen? For instance, if your goal of expanding is to make sure that you want to grow your business, and you'll measure it by the economies of scale, how would you do it, and how will you measure that? Think about it, and then ask Colin another one as Jonathan presents.
Thank you, sister. My reasoning about economies of scale is increasing your benefits as a company as production increases. So I would think a multinational approach would increase economies of scale because you would have various markets where you would actually be able to sell the increased produce that you're putting out. That is my reasoning based on that. Thank you.
That is very, very true. You have mouth, you have more than one. And more than one, as the brand increases its what? Its visibility, and the marketing also increases the awareness, so promotes the product. Then in that way, your sales are going to increase because you'll be able to attract more customers and helping them to know how your product or your goods are relate or contribute to their economy. And in other words, indirectly, you are making profits to be able to achieve your goals. Thank you, Jonathan. So others, I want also to be thinking through these perspectives because you have to have a clear objective as to why your corporation needs to expand. And how is it going to expand and be able to achieve the goal? So first of all, if you don't have the goal, if you are looking at these as goals and objectives, generating new sales, then you have to come out with objectives, how you do it. When you're looking at the resources, you also have to know how are you going to tap into the new resources and where will you be able to expand? Those are very, very key. And how will you expand? Those are key to strategizing and make sure that you do it right rather than just choosing this is what you want to do, but you don't know how best you can do it and where you are going to establish your businesses. When it comes to lowering the labor costs, also it is very, very important to know what costs are you trying to lower in a way that the production you are doing is going to bring revenue or profits in return to what you are putting in. That's when it is important to know exactly where and how you are going to do it to come up with better plans as to implement the activities that you are going to do to achieve your goal, okay? So once that is done, we are looking at global strategy. Global strategy will help you to, will be developed based on your goals, your objectives, and your mission. And as you do that, you are not just going to base on that. Also, you have to think about what resources you have, what personnel you have, what opportunities are available. All those are key for you to do what? To think of. So you remember I hinted on the key types of global strategy. Global means that's the umbrella. That is the big picture. We are going across and you are going to different what? Different countries. And you are going to do what? To expand there, or we are going to sell there, or we are going to open up there. But these are the three elements that you need to capitalize on. And in these three elements, as we go further, you realize that there are other smaller things that you may need to think of as different strategies. So these are key: standardization, international, and multinational. So what does standardization mean? A global standardization strategy is a strategy that a company develops to expand its operation into the global market and see or sell the same products in every location. Sell the same products in every location. In other words, it is characterized by keeping centralized control rather than delegating decision to local markets. What benefit is this strategy? Why would you go for this and not the other, which we have not yet discussed? Does it have a benefit? Or could it have any limitation? Talk on any of the two, benefits or limitations. They are telling us that whatever you do in or selling in a global market has to have more or less the same products. There has to be that similarity. And the governance is based on centralization structure when it comes to decision making. So what is so good about it and what is the issue? Could there be any disadvantage? Let's talk on those two. Let's first talk about the benefit. Class, I would expect everybody's hand to be up. Don't just wait for Jonathan. Yes, Sam.
Okay, thank you, sister. Good morning. I'm going to start it from two ways. One is on standardization on the arm of benefit. Is looking at the global market approach. If you're going to use the standardization way, one, you're going to have an easier wide market, because one is, I know if I'm in Africa or I'm in Europe, I'm having the same quality product and service that I will enjoy, say for Starbucks or for KFC. And then if I would stretch on the other arm where it comes out negative, the challenge is it limits the level of creativity to tailor make it for the market. Some products could be in need of, brands could need the standardization. But again, we are operating in a global market, which each has different culture, different social aspects. For instance, Uganda's attribute to a given product may not be appealing to the other markets, despite it being on a global market. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Raised a very good point, whereby he said it may be good when you're looking at marketing, because you may be focusing on the same, and the marketing will be talking of the same brand, the same product, the same benefits. And that could lead to quality when it comes to consistency to measure up to the standards, okay? And then when it comes to the disadvantage, the limitation could be the innovation, whereby you may not have the control to add in when it comes to value addition, or when it comes to strategizing to see that your competitive advantage is sustainable. So if you are hit with the force you are not able, it may be very, very difficult, because the decisions come from one end. Thank you. Others, what do you think? Hello. We're talking about standardization. If you're thinking into pro and cons, let me know. So which companies could this strategy be appropriate? Do we have them in Uganda? Where do you see it applicable? You want me to call your name? Yes, Agnes, I called you. Stella said something. Bernard, are you there? I need to hear from Aluma. I need to hear from Aliko. I need to hear from John Paul. Yeah, Proscovia. Proce?
Good afternoon, sister.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, class. Let me try. Sister, your things are hard, but we shall.
But they don't bring that up for.
Okay, talking about the benefits. Maybe global standardization, one of the benefits could be maybe consistent branding, whereby the messages and the marketing strategies and maybe the campaigns all remain consistent, like across the countries. And this could help to build a strong brand image. For example, if we take an example of Coca-Cola, it is the unified brand is consistent, and they are the same colors that we expect, the same logos, and therefore the designs across are the same, and the packaging. So this visual consistency can help the customers to recognize the brand everywhere. Thank you, sister.
Thank you. You see, you simplified it, much as you were saying it is challenging. And when it challenged you, then you were challenged. Because those who are not challenged don't take this course. So for pros, what you have said, and what I liked most, regardless of the situation you are getting in, if you are dealing with a brand, which you have to maintain, there has to be those broad campaigns to make sure that the market is overwhelmed and the market understands clearly what are you selling, to make sure that there is sustenance for the control and the measure of the what? Of the success of the business. Because here you are talking about the brand, you are talking about the good, the quality, and you are talking about the standards. And she gave an example of Coca-Cola. Everybody is very familiar with Coca-Cola. So how Coca-Cola does it, but still, as you see, you need to see if Coca-Cola is standardized, that is the strategy it uses to make sure that everything the same. So does it have some limitation? And as we heard from, I think we heard from the previous, there is no creativity. Whatever they bring is what you consume. In that way, what they have to do is to make sure that the customer needs are satisfied based on appealing to them to show them how they are meeting their needs. That's very, very key. How are you meeting their needs to ensure that they feel they are benefiting to continue supporting you, to continue consuming the goods? But the challenge when it comes to the centralized control, apart from the creativity, what could be the other issues there? Let's talk about the limitations. You are all aware of the centralized structure. You have done management theory, haven't you? You started with that. So talk about those what? Theories of governance, and that's where the centralized approach comes in. What do you know about that when we think this is the approach they have to employ? It's good because the standards are maintained. It's good because they have the control, but one element, no creativity. What could be the other? Please, please, please. There are many. Talk in line with the products or services.
Sister,
John Paul.
I think among the limitations of standardized global strategy could be insensitivity to local needs. For example, the manufacturing country will set up a product and they sell it across the globe, but to the countries where the product is consumed, their needs, their local needs are not put into. I think that could be one of the limitations. But also that one can be coupled with the culture ignorance, the culture of those particular countries are not also put into consideration. I think those could be serious limitations in terms of global standardizations.
Very, very, very powerful, good point. And I like you when you supported it to show what is lacking, because you did not only say that they may fail to penetrate, they may fail to sustain, they may even fail to sell simply because of not understanding the needs of the customers. And you highlighted that may happen simply because of failure to understand the cultural aspect of. And that's where the point is key. So in that way, you are trying to come up with the strategy, should be first understand the cultural aspect and then be able to develop or produce or sell in line with the cultural needs, cultural issues, culture. Very good point, John Paul. Letitia, please don't withdraw your hand. Your points are important regardless of what I say. Don't leave the hand there.
Thank you, sister. Good afternoon. I just wanted to add something on what he has said. When you look at, say, Coca-Cola, there's a time they were producing Coke Zero. I don't know if it's still on the market. Much as people are into healthy eating and all that, in Uganda, for some people, soda is soda. They want it fizzy. They want it sweet. So you realize that when you go to maybe shops or wherever it is, you hear people asking for different products, but at least not Coke Zero. So to me, I feel if I want it fizzy, you don't have to give me something that is not fizzy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my information.
Good point. You cannot generalize that everybody would take it because it is tested well in Europe, in US, so it's the same, it will sell. So you have to think, how will they feel about it to make sure you customize it? And that element of standardization may not consider this. Rita, I like the way you are coming up because that's how you are going to approach your individual and group projects. People who are not talking may have a challenge here. Yes, Rita.
My point was on the government policies on different products. And still also put my hand down was about, because the other point was about the culture of people, that different societies have different cultures. An example of manufacturing countries that produce clothes, you realize the Americans, the clothes they are producing might not be taken up by Muslim societies, because most of the clothes, maybe they might be short or what, and the Muslim society is putting on long clothes. Yeah, thank you.
Rita, you have a good point. I want you to elaborate, or any other person. What were you thinking about policies? It's a very good one. I want to explain a little bit.
Maybe like Mexico, they allow marijuana, drugs, but you realize in Uganda it is not allowed. Like you can't export them to the country. But in other countries like Mexico, Jamaica, they are okay with it. Thank you.
Very good. In other words, what Rita raised up here, it goes to the legal aspect and regulations. You may realize that when it is global and standardization is the approach, you may need to comply with every standard or regulation of the country that you are operating in. And that can be a cost, but you need to find a strategy on how best you can go about that you may not lose the opportunity. So that is a key point for you to identify and see how best what you could do. So be thinking in that aspect, okay? Aliko, please.
Yes, I wanted also to actually I raised my hands to elaborate on more regulations because as we standardize, take for example, breweries or tobacco, this is a brand is kept all over. But one thing that we realize that as we move to other countries, it implies getting more permits and licenses from different business best practices, and this might require more legal efforts, like hiring more legal consultants and international tax experts to make sure that we move as per the global standards. So I think maybe to overcome this challenge, then there is a need for companies to work with allies and ask for their advice and guidance, as they might be local businesses or international companies with several years of experience in the markets within different countries.
Excellent. Very, very good. Well taken on and point clear. She just battled it down to what I was expecting. So when you realize that this is the approach which can get you there, you recognize that there are laws and regulations that govern the standards that are maintained. And it's the challenge for you who may not be familiarized with what they do. The key, all right, that is very, very key. We are talking of establishing relationships, identify who are the key. And that's why she said, you may get consultants, you may get experts, but also recognize the cost. How effective are you going to be investing into the standardization when it is going to be costly on your operation? And yet there could be another way of doing it without even hiring experts or whatever. Can you establish those who are already there? And then you are able to work together. So that is the best way of looking at limitations and how you have handled the limitation. Thank you very much. Very good arguments and very good points raised. Is there anything we have left? They are there. And I like those who are coming up because you're already handling your individual aspects. Is there any other thing we have to think of?
Sister, I think there could be a potential for monopolies. When these standards are set by the dominant industry players, they can create barriers to entry for these new competitors, which can lead to holistic practices.
It's true. What could be done in that aspect? Plus, Doreen has raised the point of monopoly. And that may come in when you feel like, you know, we don't want our economy to be deflated. We only need to support our economy. So whatever you do, we don't need it. And the limitation they put will limit how much you can do, how much you can export, and who can be exported there. As you will hear that the standard may be, much as you have an operation in US, you have an operation in Asia, we only need the CEO, or we need the senior operation manager and this, but other employees have to come from the base. Or you can only bring in this and this, the others have to be produced in the local country. So in that kind of situation, what approach would you take? Well, you'll think about it when you have to face it, okay? So as we continue, global standardization strategy is a business method that aims to produce, promote, and distribute products and services based on global standards. Consider in doing so, you have to consider the market's geographical location. You have to consider the culture. You have to consider the traditions. You have to consider the needs of the customers. You have even to know their expectations and to create messages and marketing plans for potential clients. So by implementing this, you'll be able to sell items in different countries, regions, and continents, because you are able to standardize. You have been able to understand the different areas that are very, very important. But this might require making changes to the company. That's the key. Changes, and that's where the flexibility is very, very important, to adopt, to comply, to innovate. If you are just saying standards, yes, please.
The
Somebody.
slides are not moving.
Which slide are you on?
Are not...
Which one are you on?
The second one.
Are you serious?
Number 2.
Yeah.
You're number
2.
They're not moving?
Yes.
Why?
It's like number 2.
We are
seeing number 2.
Always, why were you keeping quiet? It is technology. I'm on 6. So I've been missing all that. Sorry.
We've been trying to catch up, but Okay.
And you
We'll catch up
you
on
should
it.
not stretch so much. Why are they not moving? I don't know. Okay.
Actually, they had posted in the chat.
They were posted in the chat. Who posted them there?
No, I mean somebody
No.
had posted in the chat that the slides are not moving.
Sometimes I don't go forth and back to see what is in the chat. That is a problem. And I think that's where I need somebody to help me there. Once we are discussing and somebody is in the chat, just say somebody has put, and then we read those points in the chat, okay? Sorry about that. So now what do you want me to do? To go continue or to flash you back?
Kindly flash us back and then we can continue.
You are funny. This was number 2. That's where you were stuck, huh? So this was number 2. Companies may expand, and we talked about the definition. Then this one we discuss. That's what we discuss what is the strategy, and that is the one which introduced us to the key elements of the strategy, which are standardization, international, and multinational. And we went further to discuss the what? The development. Why is it important to develop those global strategies? Looking at a global perspective, and we looked at how they can help you to increase sales, how can they help you to increase your brand, how they can help you to tap into resources, how they can help you to reduce the production costs, and how they can help you to gain a competitive advantage and other factors. And then we moved as this could have been the objectives of global strategy. As an example, it could be to generate new sales. So in regards, when you are talking about this, you are referring to these 3 what? We are referring to these 3 areas which are here. So basically, when you are looking at the international, the multinational, and the global, you are trying to say, what is the reason? As you will see on your individual or your group, the question is, what was, maybe you can say, what is KFC's global strategy? It may not be one, but it's important to highlight which are the more important strategies. And that's when you look at going from one country to another. It may be in one country it wanted to generate new sales. In another country where it opened, it needed to access the resources. And maybe in another one, it realized that the brand was not there, and it came to Uganda to increase its brand and open up so that whoever comes from different countries, they're able to find their taste and experience what they like. And another, because we're talking of global, more than one country, it may not be the same reason why they go to different countries. That's why we come up with different objectives. This list is not exhaustible to be able to understand what makes you move from Kampala to Masaka, then you are in Jinja, and now you have gone to Mbale. So it could be like you are asking, what is the reason of the parliament moving out from one region to other region? And you can bring that as it has moved from the standardization of knowing that it has to sit in Kampala, it has to move to different regions. Now, what is its objective? And then from there, you try to look at the objective that brings it in Gulu. Maybe it is because it wants to make sure that it develops based on the needs of the people there. In the Kampala, this was the objective. Now the objective going to the west will be different. And when it brings all those objectives there, then it may come up to be more meaningful in the way as to how, I'm just giving an example of how resources are being utilized, of how needs of the people are being aligned to the resources, and how other factors, employment is being covered up, you know. So it is how you have to look at when you are looking at, now we are looking at strategies on a bigger perspective locally to moving to different regions, okay? Then, and that's why we came up to the 3 key areas where we are now going to tackle one by one to see why standardization, why international, why multinational, and is it possible to use 2 or more, and why could you use 2 or more or just focus on more, and how best could you utilize one to make sure that you capitalize or you increase your economies of scale, or you reduce the risk, or otherwise, okay? So basically, this is how the slides, I'm sorry that they were not moving. They didn't want you to see what I had written. So we are now on 9, global strategy. Are we together?
Yes, sister, thank you.
Thank you very much. So as a definition, this is what we said. For the standardization, basically expands this operation into a global market and sells the same. So here, it is a similarity of the. Could you please mute Sam?
Sorry.
And another character where you have to know is the centralization. And when we talk about the centralization, your point should look at the decision making, how our decisions are made, how functions are done, and who does what. This is where the centralization aspect comes in relation to the control, in relation to the standards, in relation to the management, in relation to the functions. Okay, that is very, very key. And when we talked about this, we really went deep to discuss the benefit and the challenges which are associated with that. And this slide, which talks about further on the strategy, when you are developing or when you are thinking about implementing that standardization, where you have to sell more or less the same thing in every country you go, it is very, very important. Things you have to consider are highlighted here. That is the geographical location. You're looking at the market, because you're not just going there for the matter of going. You need to think about the location clearly. How do you choose where you go? Is it costly? Is it effective? You have to think about the cultural aspects. These are the people, because people have different needs, people have different beliefs, people have different values. It is also key to ensure that, as we talked about, you may think by bringing a burger here, everybody wants burger, not knowing Africans need hot food. So in that way, much as you may think it is quick and easy, it may not penetrate well. When you think about the traditionals, you are dealing in clothes, you are dealing in foods, also that is also key. What are their needs? Why would they buy your clothes when they don't need dresses and skirts, when they prefer to cover all and they prefer soft and light? So that traditional, as it has been, is very, very important to ensure the history has what to say when the business is in operation, to make sure that everything is aligned. And when you think about their expectations, also that's when you have to think like the customer. Are they just thinking because they want to satisfy their quench? No. Is it because they need it sweet and cool? Maybe. Is it because they want to show that they have money, status? I suppose. No, is it because they want to support you because you have provided something which is durable? Probably. Convenient. So think about their expectations. And by doing so, when you remember what you did, maybe you didn't do, but those who are doing marketing, that's where, for expectation, you focus on 2 things, the gain and the pain. What is that gain you are making them feel? That is a satisfaction. What is that pain that you are getting them rid of? That is a problem that you are solving. You are trying to look at, by doing so, their life will be much better. By doing so, regardless of the resources that you are tapping to, still it will be cheaper than importing it from Uganda, and they are able to have it in the European country. So you need to go further. And when you are looking at the creating message, basically what you are doing here is marketing. Marketing is bigger, as you know. I'm sure you have talked about all the P's, because initially we have those the 4 P's, the promotion, the product, the price, and the place. But now it goes even more than the 4 P's, where you have to think about the processes, where you have to think about the people, where you have to think about another P could be the physical, that is the placement could be the location, the physical, that is how would they feel about it in relation to their expectations. So all those things are very, very important as you plan on your strategies, so that you don't just think of one thing to know, I'll get it there and I'll get the same thing. Think about a whole person in perspective of what plans you're making, okay? And that is what will enable you to sell your items, to promote your services, and to be able to sell and expand and be able to reach a wider customer base. If I'm to give an example, help me understand. I know the insurance companies have a struggle selling their services in countries like in developing countries like in Africa. Why could that be an issue? Is it because we don't need insurance, or is it because it is expensive, or is it because we don't need it? In relation, when you are looking about standardization strategy, can you help me get to that? If you're familiar with insurance companies, or if some of you are working into the insurance companies. We used to have AA here, AA moved, then there is now, we have insurance, yes, Rita, and then Leticia.
Let me just try out. In my view, I'm thinking we need it, but clear information has not really reached to people or to individuals about the insurance and its benefit. And some people have this perspective that maybe those who are on insurance, those in high class, but low classes don't need insurance. So I'm thinking communication and information reaching out to people has not been done so well. Thank you.
Thank you. Leticia?
Excuse me. Thank you, sister. My view is about the cultural aspect. The way we perceive insurance in Uganda is different, and the way our culture is, say for life insurance, when you look at things like, say, you even see the funeral services culture here is just picking up. Someone doesn't want to think they are dying tomorrow. Someone doesn't want to think. There is a way that we have been. It is just the culture. Then secondly, also when you look at our way of earning, the disposable income and our incomes as households, it's hard for me to say I will part with 500,000 in a row, like at once. So the sensitization coming on, yes, the insurance companies are coming on, they are trying to move around, they have tried to sensitize, but we still have that lacking. Maybe that's why their businesses are closing out.
Thank you.
I submit.
Thank you, Rita and Patricia, Leticia. Those are very, very key points, because when we are doing this kind of thing, don't think outside Uganda, come home. Yes, please.
Excuse me, sister. I also have something to add on that.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is my view. For me, I think also the terms and conditions that this insurance are coming up with may not be complying to, okay, to our expectations, and then also considering the income, the earning of the people. You find that the terms and conditions that these insurances are coming up with, we may not be able to afford it. So people look at it like it's for rich and for those who can afford it. So we find ourselves being knocked out of the system.
True. That's very, very good observation and analysis. So when you are looking at those companies, you have to ask, did they take enough time to research the culture aspect of the society that they are penetrating in? Because it could happen they brought the services, we need them. It's not that we don't need them, but they understand the needs and expectations of their customers. And if they do so, do they really understand the traditions to ensure that whatever is done, it is aligned or it does not kill the traditions of the people that they are trying to target? And if that is, it may go further to look at the price, the strategies that they have used to set their prices. So it's not one thing. That's why everything has to be looked at into alignment to ensure that by introducing the services, because those are westernized kind of services which are being kind of brought into Africa to show that something can be done and it can make money for them if that's so, or it can save others the time, or even it can reduce the pain. But how do you do it is very, very important. Because now when they had just started, you may realize that maybe 1 or 2 companies were in the funeral services. Now the market has been what? Filled up. Everywhere you go, names are being even lubricated. And you realize that even some, it's very unfortunate, even some do things, they just get things and they work it out. So as you analyze and you think of your proposals in this aspect, make sure that you go further into the market, looking at your target market, and then you go into the different the different perspectives to see how best you can access and meet the needs of your of your customer. Because if the cost is high, Rita, your hand up. You want to say something? My computer is...
Maybe also the point on reference. I don't know if I can put it like that. That are some people who have... hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that some people who have used some of these insurance companies are the one who act as maybe reference to others, that in case an insurance company did not work for you very well, you'll never recommend it for another person. And if it has maybe treated you well, you will always testify to other people, and then those people.
True. So in other words, how do you market your services or your products in relation to what you do to ensure, because it is being standardized, or what you are doing is funeral services. That is, there is nothing more you are doing. So if that is a brand, how is it marketed to make sure that you increase productivity, you increase the market share? How do you provide your services? There are those who come, I will not mention, and they make you feel like, yeah, I want to die, and I'm buried like that. If that is...
Sister?
Yes, please.
Okay, according to me, how we can market our product is, okay, what we need to do is to do thorough research and then get to understand the culture of a particular might be people or country, and the policies that govern the community, and then try to adjust and comply to the requirements and the policies that is put in place, and also adjust our strategies in line with that, with the expectations and the policies which are put in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, what she has been talking on is the points, because when you realize that these are disadvantages, you don't just leave them hanging. You need to come up with better ways on how to improve. If you have been hinted that you are opened up, expanded, but there is less attraction in relation to the customer, in relation to the sales, in relation to the growth of the business, think about how different you can do it to increase awareness of your product, awareness of your brand, awareness of the services that you do. If the product itself is less attractive, the beginning can be, the initial can be very good if you have just opened up here. But as competition comes in, then you realize that people's tastes and preferences change. And that's where research continues. Do you get feedback from your customers? And do you utilize the feedback to come up with innovative ways to change and improve on the services? Because many times we don't do that, but that is strategically. The way you do it locally here, assuming that people will keep coming wherever you are, it may not be the same when you are in a foreign country or a foreign market. When it comes to the production, also it is key. By the time maybe you started, the raw materials, the resources were available, but with time you realize that the resources are not as plenty as it should be. So that way you have to think strategically what you have to do. I understand now when it comes to the production, you need to think of how best to minimize the cost and maximize the profits. That is very, very key. If you had gone in as a direct investor, maybe it is high time to merge and work with partners so that you are not exiting without achieving your goal. So in other words, what this is telling us, strategically, you have to be continuously thinking of what you have to do to make sure that you do what? You are able to remain relevant and secure in what? In a foreign market. These are just examples. The first example they are giving us here. If you are applying the standardization strategy and you are dealing in luxury bags. For example, if you are selling ladies' bags and they are based foundation, the headquarter offices in Uganda, and you are trying to sell them across, it can be a little bit important to standardize, because whatever they go or whatever you export, it will be a red bag and a luxury. Some may not think of where it is made from, so long as the standard, the quality is par, and that is the key. And that will enable you to reduce the cost of putting manufacturing plants in every country, but ensuring that the processes or the procedures are continuous, consistent, and measuring up to the quality, so that you are able to reach across the border. Then another example they gave us is the example, if you are, when you are looking at the global, make sure that you don't only think about what the company wants to increase, but you also have to think about the different needs of the customers. We have already talked about it. And this is what this strategy is, this slide is talking about in relation to what you need to do to ensure that you achieve what? You achieve your goals. I may not start the new one because I see it's almost lunch, but I want you going out for your lunch thinking about what international strategy is all about. Will that be okay? Or you want me to continue and I finish? Yes? You're not answering.
Sister, you can continue.
Sister, you can continue and finish if that is the last one.
We still have multinationals.
So we can take a break for lunch and come back.
Let me do the international strategy. Okay. We have exhausted the standard. Now we are on the international. So that is the second. We are talking global, that is more than one country. We have talked standardization, one in different countries. Now we are on international. So what does this mean? It involves importing and exporting products. But using this strategy allows you to work with foreign suppliers and sell to customers around the world while keeping your physical premises within your home country. Within your home country. That's the key. So, does this have a benefit? You are doing it, still focusing mainly on a company home market while doing some business overseas. So in other words, you have not moved out, but your base is in Uganda while you are still exporting more. And by doing so, that has to make you think, why should people do that? What motivates them to do that in relation to the theory? Could there be a theory that you can think of which drives that approach to business, international business strategies? When would you think I need to export? And as well supply the local community? You understand the question?
Sister, I think you would choose to export if expansion into the international market requires a very big capital investment. So you would choose to export and you utilize the suppliers, whereas you're physically here and still supplying the local market.
I'm trying to see it. When it requires a big capital investment, what do you mean?
To establish yourself in the international market so that you can put business, let's say in the UK, but you're producing from Uganda, you still have to meet the local demand, but also you want to move into international market. So if it requires you setting up, like I said, you need to get premises where you set up the business, hire staff, do branding, do marketing and everything. And you realize that it might be a very big capital investment. It will be, I think, simpler.
Okay.
Of suppliers in the international market. They sell your produce while you're also meeting the local demand.
Okay. Point. Others, what do you think? Move to theory, international business theory. Would you just think, let me export? Letitia.
Maybe, let me just try. Maybe the comparative advantage theory.
What does it say?
That countries should actually produce and export goods which they have a comparative advantage and trade with others.
You're on track. What does comparative advantage mean? Economists. Yes, Jonathan.
Yes, sister, let me try. Comparative advantage, in my understanding, is the goods you can produce at a lower cost because of availability of various inputs compared to another country. So you can easily produce and sell to another country, and then you obtain what the others also produce at a lower cost.
Excellent. Excellent. That's a very good strategy. You realize that you have the benefit of the resources, going to the resource-based theory. And the cost of producing is lower as compared to other countries. So you produce and you provide what you are able to produce efficiently and be able to export to other countries, while at the same time, you supply to the local community. That's the theory of comparative advantage in relation to resource-based theory in relation to strategy of the national business. Yes, Rita. What?
Repeat for me. Can you repeat for me the definition? Can you repeat?
You want me to repeat for you the definition? I don't even remember what I said. Letitia, you want to help me?
Can I kindly make? Yeah, yes, exactly. Okay. Comparative advantage theory, it gives you as a country the advantage to use the inputs that you can have at the lowest cost to produce, to avail what you have. Then you can also be able to trade with those countries which are producing at their lowest cost for that product that you are not able to have in your own country. I'm just trying to explain it in a layman's language.
And that is the best way to go, because we don't want it technical.
Yes, I'm giving an example. Let me give an example, like here. Things like produce, say beans, we have the climate, the good climate that can enable us to produce maize, to produce beans, to have wheat, which we can get cheaply produced and then grown and then exported to countries, say, countries which are able to give us ammunition or guns or politically, things that we need here that we cannot be able to receive, to produce here cheaply, because I understand in the production units that we have here is it's expensive to have ammunition here compared to other countries. I submit.
Good.
Okay, I want to understand something. Okay,
Go
it's
ahead.
like in case we are you produce what you are able to produce at a low cost in order to get something that you're not able to produce locally from another country. Is that what we are trying to?
What I'm saying is those countries, say I'm sending food to the UK, for instance, matoke or beans, or I'm giving these examples because that is what I see people trading in. Then the UK, for instance, has things that it produces at a lower cost. For example, I may not give a very good example, but say clothing, they have good cotton clothes that they can give us here. For us here, what we can do is do we even still have cotton? I don't know. But we are able to get those people. They produce cheaply. They have the machines, they have the equipment to do the production of clothing at a lower cost for them. So they are benefiting from us because we are sending them what they are not able to grow cheaply, say because of their weather. They have winter, they have summer, they have autumn, they have spring. But here we have that climate that is able to give us to produce agricultural products at a low cost compared to them. That's how I understand it. Maybe Sister can also throw more light.
Let me put my computer and try to power before. But what she's saying, the example she has given is right. Jonathan, you want to come in first?
Sister, I wanted to simplify for Grandy because probably the teacher is using a lot of English. But the simplified issue is comparative advantage is not generalized. One country can have a comparative advantage over the other in production of one commodity, and then the other also has a comparative advantage over the other in one commodity. Letitia is telling you, as Uganda, we have a comparative advantage over producing organic food. That is matoke, the beans and everything. And the UK is able to take up what we produce because they cannot produce the same way we do. We have the good soils, we have the good weather, we have the sun, we are in the tropics. So we are able to produce that. And in that same line, the UK can produce textiles at a cheaper cost. And then it means they will export to Uganda to be able to benefit from the textiles that they produce. So the UK has a comparative advantage over Uganda when it comes to textiles. But Uganda has a comparative advantage over the UK when it comes to agricultural produce. Simply that.
Thank you, Jonathan.
And simply stated, and the key you have to consider is the efficiency. And when you are talking about efficiency, is the low cost of production. And that whatever is produced have to meet the needs and the standards of the expectations of the foreign country that you are targeting. That's where, and even in that way, you have to also to measure that regardless of the advantage which is there, the value of what you are exporting should be able to measure up to what you are importing. So that you are not just exporting and what you are importing is not measuring up to what you are getting out. So that's when, if that is the case, then you better add value to what you are exporting. I'm just elaborating on that further to make sure that instead of producing coffee and you send it as raw coffee, can you process it further and you are able to export it at the level when it could be able to be efficiently consumed to bring more revenue or economy of scale within the country. But as the examples they have given you, that is the key. As African countries, we have the advantage because it is comparing. Comparative comes from comparing. What do you have as compared to what I have so that I can produce this and be able to get to what you are able to do in an effective manner without spending so much money, okay? And that is the theory which some businesses use or countries use when they're strategically expanding internationally. And it is international simply because the base is in the local country. They don't have to go and invest in UK. Everything is done here. They only send the produce, okay? So thank you, members, for that contribution. It is very, very important. It has moved us further to talk about the theories. There is also another theory on that, whereby it may not be that comparatively what you have, but in the low cost, but it can be even you are doing it, you have it more and in the quality standards. Absolutely nobody can beat you in relation to what you are producing. You are the only one who can produce it, and by doing so, it puts you on a higher level to use that as an advantage to open up the international business with another country to exchange goods that way. And that's the absolute advantage theory, or the absolute actually it is the absolute theory. Okay, so we'll look that into further, but also that means you have to bypass all the others to be on top competitively, to take the advantage, to be able to be on top of the market, to be considered as the one who can only export as compared to others to take advantage of the market. So companies that have business operation in more than one market, also known as multinational companies, adopt a long-term plan to outline the steps and procedures they need to accomplish their goals in the global market. In other words, regardless of the strategy you take, whether it is standardization or international strategy, you need to have a clear plan. When we talk of management, that is the strategic plan, management plan. How are you going to manage that transaction? How are you going to manage the exchange of goods? How are you going to manage the opening up of the new investment? And by doing so, then it will help you to make sure that you have clear long-term plan and they are clearly outlined into the strategy. When we talk about longer term, and then you'll be able to achieve your what? Your goals. And when you talk about the strategy, we're talking about plan. It will depend on different factors. And the factors, as I have highlighted here, there has to be factors in relation to the resources, in line to the industry, in line to the markets and others. Talk about technology, talk about competition. All those factors are key when you are thinking about the plan that you are going to use to penetrate or to expand your business internationally. And internationally, when you are based in Uganda, but you are exporting to Korea, you are exporting to China, you are exporting, you name it. Sometimes it may not be sustainable simply because of poor planning. Do you have examples of where we have been able to open up internationally and we have been blocked out as to why we are not able to maintain those relationships? Do you have examples of those? I'm sure you are very familiar, because now you are thinking of establishing a manufacturing company. You need to look at those models which were established and they are no longer into the transaction. What could be some of the reasons? Apart from the political aspect. Are you tired?
We are thinking.
All right. As you are thinking, let's cross it on this slide. So international strategy example you can give, you are using the same scenario as an example. Imagine that you decide to create an international strategy for your, no, we did that already. We don't need to go back into that. We have done that. But the question I asked you here, for you to think about choosing an international strategy as a way of expanding, and you end there and you are closed off. And I asked, do we have companies in Uganda which established international relations businesses and they are no longer in existence? That you know? And you said you are still thinking. So continue thinking Then we come back, we talk about multinational strategy. Or we finish multinational and go for lunch. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, sister.
Today I like you. You're very positive. I don't know what you had for breakfast. All right. So keep in mind the two. That is the standard, the international, multinational. When you use a multinational strategy, you can cater your products to each individual local market. You can also have physical business locations and staff based in various locations. The key benefit of using multinational is the ability to cater for your business to individual locations. Could there be any limitations to that? Here they are telling us you have a physical business location based in various locations. Assuming that you are in Africa, you are in US, you are in China, in all those, you have offices. And you are strategically customizing the services to the local people, to the local needs. Is that good? And if it is good, what are the issues that are likely to face the organizations who are using that kind of strategic plan or approach to penetrate the different countries and be able to operate? And what would be the nature of the businesses that operate on that approach when they are using multinational? Ask your neighbor if you are two there. Aliko.
Sister, can I try?
Right.
I think
let's have Aliko first, then you come in.
I'm thinking, looking at first ours in Uganda Mukwano industry, because as you're bringing out the point, I try to visualize. We see that Mukwano Industries has set up itself also in Tanzania. So one of the things that I see that comes in as is the rules and regulations, because you cannot just go and enter Tanzania. You have to ensure that you meet their standards there. As far as we are breaking into that market, we have to meet the standards, meaning that we have to register with all the regulatory bodies there to get the licenses to operate our business in that country. And also, not only looking at the licenses, we are looking at also another aspect is there shall be a need of taking key staff who have mastered the game of the business, and having them in that country means that we have to pay for their, they talk about their visa stay there or their resident status in that place. Not only that, cater for their welfare living in that, which is a cost, increased cost to the company. We also have to, okay, the third point, which I saw, if I'm looking at that aspect of line, because marketing also, you cannot just enter into the country. We have to ensure that we have put up a good budget to advertise our products or services in that country, whereby a survey has already been done to identify that there's a need in that locality. People need this kind of products, because not all the products that we have in Mukwano in Uganda are in Tanzania, but specific products which they are consuming and kind of satisfied, and they are going further. I think that is what I would say.
Thank you. She raised 3 points. She talked about the management, the resource, the human resource. She talked about the cost, Also, she talked about the marketing aspect, which helps you to be in the center of everything that you do. Can I hear from the other one? Who was that one? Members? Others are just so quiet. Go ahead, go ahead. Who is that?
Jonathan.
Yes, Jonathan.
You asked whether I would choose a multinational approach, and I think it would be a yes, because a multinational approach would help you address or personalize goods and services to customers in a way it will increase your sales and everything, and all the targets that you have. But also, key to note, multinational corporations, most of the time, they help in job creation in the countries where they are, and they bring about an improvement in the quality of goods that they produce. But one of the cons about multinationals is because they have a lot of capital investment, they push out local companies from business. They tend to invest heavily, and there's at times some of them even evade taxes. From tax holidays, they go on deregistering the companies and changing names. So at times they caused losses in terms of taxes to the companies to the countries where they operate. That's my thinking.
So when you're looking at that, which companies could be best suitable for this kind of strategy?
I would suggest that companies that deal in final products, not mainly services, but final products. For example, in Uganda, we have Unilever. I think Unilever is all over the world. There's Unilever Kenya, there's Unilever Uganda, Unilever Tanzania, and all over the world. But Unilever is based in the US. It's not based here. But they sell a number of products. For example, Blue Band. Now they have various, they have very many types of Blue Band. There's Blue Band chocolate, there's Blue Band, everything there. They have Omo, they have Nomi, they sell a number of products, but they are present in very many countries.
So could it be those who are dealing with household, those who are dealing with food, or those who are just doing retail business?
Household items are usually the fast-moving goods. Perishables are usually tricky because dealing in perishables also comes with a number of risks. The risks increase. But when you're talking about household items that are, should I say, I would call them dry products. They don't really require any specific handling or storage. Usually they move faster. And I believe that's why Mukwano, for example, as given by Rico, has been able to establish itself in East Africa. And they Movit, because Movit now sells the Vaseline and its cosmetics as far as Central African Republic. So usually those the household items, they are fast movers.
So in other words, what that is telling us is very, very important to think of how best you can position your business in a foreign market. Don't just think every business can be able to penetrate and be able to sell, because there are many, many factors that you have to consider. And look at the many factors that you have to consider, then that's how best you have to know how sure what you are selling is going to be able to attract, is going to be able to retain the market share that you are gauging, and be able to help you to reduce the costs and be able to achieve what? Achieve your goals. And that's why they are telling us here, when you are dealing with multinational companies, you have to think of the other players within the international world or international market. so that you can see how best you can be able to strategize. They give us that into the multinational, they give us the Kia. Kia, you are all familiar with that. That is a motor, not so? A motor sector which deals with motor industry. And then you have Walmart, that is US. These are both US companies, multinational, but they are telling us they choose an international, regardless of the standard of the work they are doing, regardless of their operation in two different countries, but they are telling us that they choose the international to guide their efforts simply because they realize that that will help them to do what? To capitalize on what they do and not able to, when you think of international, not able to move their plans or even to spend much, but while serving the local and in the international in a more effective or efficient manner. And in the international, as we talk about here, it introduces us, we talked about the transnational and the global. It introduces us to the multi-domestic as another approach. It is within that we have other mechanisms that you can use to ensure that you are able to move further as you are looking at investing your business. So the multinational here, from the transitional, the international, the global, the multinational, or the multi-domestic, entirely different. They use different tactics, sales, marketing strategies, and product portfolio. So as I was asking Jonathan whether it should be better to fit into the retail business, to fit into the manufacturing sector, to fit into the service sector. Other things that you have to look at are the tactics in relation to the sales, in tactics in relation to the marketing, the tactics in relation to the portfolio. The portfolio, that means what is the product line? What are the nature of the products that you are dealing with? That is very, very key to ensure that also helps you to come up with the different plans as to how you are going to do what? To invest and be able to take on in a foreign what? In a foreign market. So what this tells us, there is more than international, there is more than bigger global, there is more than multinational, there is more small things that you have to put into perspective when you are trying to think of working with other investors in a global market, because they are not just thinking one thing, they are also always trying to talk about different things. And if your strategy is to focus on the sales tactics, then capitalize on that so that you see what others are doing to sell and you develop the tactics mechanisms to be top on that as you are attracting and selling your products. If it is a marketing approach, move from the traditional way of marketing and you think of different ways of how you can market your goods, and you use that in a way that is going to make you look different to be able to differentiate your goods and services from others. If it is a product line that you are using in best for your portfolio, think about, you are not going to be looking at selling everything. You're going to specialize, and then your approach will be, I can only sell these products, these goods, because these are the best I can tell you when it comes to repair, when it comes to fixing, when it comes to production, when it comes to the processes. We are the best in this, what we do. So that as you compare yourself with others, you have an absolute advantage to capitalize on what you do best in a multinational or multi-domestic strategic approach. Isn't that enough for the morning? For me, I need a break. If for you, you need lunch. Plus, what do you have to say? Hello. Jonathan.
Excuse me, sister.
Yes, please.
I did not get a group, sister. I was not present last weekend.
Sorry for you. Can you talk to Rita? Because she's establishing a new group. And the new group is what I'm going to assign a task. I'll send it to her and she'll post it to the 6th group. And I think that will be the last one. Okay.
Thank you very much, sister.
So if you are out, and make sure that all of those who have not been registered for this class register, so that when it comes to the group and the people are already into their groups, nobody is saying I was not and did not and whatever, okay? So I think let's break for lunch and come back and have some activity to do in relation to what we have covered, and then call it a day. How many minutes do we need for lunch?
Only 30, sister.
Good. So let's be back at 2, okay?
Yes, sister.
Thank you very much. Have a good lunch and call it a day. No, a morning, not a day, a morning.
Likewise, sister.
Thank you.